Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the DFO Fantasy Show. It is Monday, March 23rd. I'm your host, Brock Seguin, managing fantasy editor of dailyfaceoff.com. And today we will talk about the best streaming targets for week 22 of the fantasy hockey season. Obviously, a pivotal week now that everybody has reached the playoffs. Either you're in the quarterfinals or you're in the semifinals. Either way, you're going to need some help this week to hopefully push you to the semis or the finals in your league. So we're going to talk about the strength of schedule. Not a lot of teams to talk about today. The best streaming options. We talked about them a couple weeks ago, so we're just going to kind of reiterate some of them. But then I'm also going to go over the teams that have really bad schedules this week, some bad schedules next week, and just players that I would not hesitate to drop for these streamers. Wouldn't hesitate to drop them maybe later in the week if you really start to get into a bit of a crunch here in the quarters or the semis. So a lot to get to today. We're going to start with a very quick news and notes segment, though, and we will start in Dallas, where Mikko Rantanen will be a full participant in practice going forward and will travel on the Stars 4-game road trip this week with the hope that he'll be able to play by Saturday in Pittsburgh. The Stars close out the week with a Saturday-Sunday back-to-back, so potentially you could get 2 games out of Mikko Rantanen this week. I know in my league of record, I'm holding on to him on the IR slot right now. Hopefully he can return for the weekend. Would obviously provide a huge boost for my team and hopefully yours as well. Still in Dallas, Roope Hintz, who has been out with a lower body injury, still is not skating, but the Stars have reiterated that they expect him to be back before the playoffs. So we'll see. As far as fantasy hockey goes, probably not going to see much more of Roope Hintz this season. Somebody that we should see some more of is Jake Sanderson of the Ottawa Senators. He resumed skating over the weekend. And on Saturday, head coach Travis Green said he could be back in the next 7 to 10 days. It was a rough ballpark estimate, but I would expect at the very least to see Sanderson miss at least 3 more games, with the possibility of him returning at the front end of that timeline. The 7-day timeline would put him on track to play this Saturday against Tampa, but expect him to at least miss 3 more games. So you probably aren't going to have much Jake Sanderson this week, but if you advance beyond this week, Jake Sanderson could be back in your lineup. But that's going to do it for the fantasy hockey news and notes. We are going to now pull up the strength of schedule tool to make sure that we get you on the right track here heading into the quarters or the semis, no matter where you are. And as we mentioned a couple of weeks ago, the New York Rangers are the undoubtedly best streams of the week. There is a very weird schedule in the NHL this week. Monday, just 1 game. Wednesday, 2. Friday, 2. And then Sunday, 6. But that leaves Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday with 15, 13, and 15 games. So your lineups are going to be absolutely jam full on those days. You're going to have no room to pick anybody up and insert them into your lineup. So that leaves light nights as the king this week. And the New York Rangers have not only are all 4 of their games on light nights, which is obviously as good as it gets, but no other team has more than 2. So like the advantage you get with the New York Rangers is massive. We tried to get you out in front of this. If you missed the previous episodes where we discussed this, hopefully some of these players are still available on your waiver wire. So we're going to roll through the New York Rangers and some of their best streaming candidates. The other team that I am willing to stream from this week is the Buffalo Sabres. They're one of just 3 teams that have 2 light night games, but the bonus with the Buffalo Sabres is their 2 light nights are Wednesday and Friday, which does leave you that additional flexibility to make a move for that 6-game slate on Sunday. So you do get some flexibility, and if you missed out on some of the top-end Rangers guys, I think that you're better off to get 2 streams on Wednesday, Friday, from a Buffalo Sabres player than maybe dipping into the bottom of the barrel for the Rangers. So ideally, you get some of the top-end Rangers. Ideally, they're already on your roster. If you're looking for additional streams, Buffalo would be the next best option. We'll get into all of it here in a second. But let's start with the New York Rangers. We talked about Alexis Lafrenière a couple weeks ago, and I'm like, you need to get him now, add him now, hold him. He's already playing well. It's not like he's going to hurt your roster back a couple weeks ago. And in the playoffs, he's going to provide a huge boost. He's up to 51% roster. I'm still going to bring him up, though, just because he is in the midst of the best stretch of his 6-year career. He's recorded a point in 9 of his last 15 games. He has totaled 10 goals and 18 points during those 15 games. So he's playing extremely well. What's even more encouraging is the stability in the production. His usage has jumped up significantly. He's averaging close to 19.5 minutes per night over his last 12 games, and he's generating consistent shot volume, 2.6 shots on goal and 4.9 shot attempts per game during that stretch. He's obviously firmly locked into this top line role. They gutted the roster, so He's firmly locked into the top line role. He's also on the top power play unit. We saw when JT Miller returned, it was Gabe Perreault who was bumped off the top unit. Alexis Lafrenière remains in that spot, and he's been very, very productive. And there's no reason to expect that his role is going to change at all this week. So he is definitely the number one priority, but chances are you missed out on him and you're not going to get to stream him, unfortunately. So hopefully you listened to the show a couple weeks ago, got out in front of this one because, yeah, I mean, he's only available in 49% of leagues now. Will Cuylle is the next option. I would say my next favorite option is Gabe Perreault. We'll get to him in a minute. I'm going to go in order of roster percentage here, but Will Cuylle is definitely gone in banger formats. He averages 3.5 hits per game. So he's gone in those formats, but he should be available in many standard formats. Unlike Lafrenière, Cuylle has not played well as of late, going pointless in his last 8 games. That said, he showed what he is capable of just prior to that. He had 6 goals in 12 games before this cold streak. So for a 1-week streamer with 4 light nights, I think it's enough upside to consider Cuylle as a pretty good option this week in standard formats. His role is pretty steady. He's on the second line with Vincent Trocheck. There's not a lot of quality in the on the depth chart behind him. So he's averaging over 16 minutes a night on the second line, and he's on the second power play unit. I think that's fine. And I probably prefer Gabe Perreault, but Will Cuylle, I think, is a good option as well. As I mentioned, 40% roster. But in my league of record, which is more standard formats, he is available in that league. So in those non-banger leagues, he should be there for you to stream. Gabe Perreault, 15% rostered. His stock obviously dipped slightly when he lost the top power play unit spot when JT Miller returned 5 games ago. But the production hasn't really wavered too much. He's recorded 3 assists while averaging over 18 minutes a night in those 5 games since Miller returned. He doesn't really offer much in terms of peripheral stats. He doesn't shoot the puck a ton, just 1.8 shots on goal, 3.3 shot attempts, doesn't hit at all. But he's finding the score sheet consistently. And to me, that makes him a more appealing streaming option than Cuylle in these standard formats. If you zoom out, he's been excellent in March, putting up 4 goals and 8 assists for 12 points in his last 11 games. And if you're looking for a blue line stream this week, I look no further than Vladislav Gavrikov. It's up to 21% rostered. Gavrikov's breakout season has kind of come out of nowhere. Prior to this season, he had never scored more than 6 goals in a season. He averaged just 5.5 goals per 82 games over his first 6 NHL seasons. This year, he's been riding an elevated 13.3 shooting percentage, where his career average is at 6.5 now, which has helped him climb up to 14 goals, which is tied for 8th among defensemen just out of nowhere. While that level of efficiency, obviously isn't going to hold long term, the reason production is hard to ignore, and with as big of an advantage as the Rangers give you this week, Gavrikov is a pretty good stream, especially if you need help on the blue line. I know in my league of record, I've got Shane Gostisbehere injured. I've been riding 2 defensemen, so Gavrikov makes a lot of sense in situations like that. He enters the week with 6 goals and 8 assists for 14 points in his last 17 games. He's averaging 4.1 shot attempts per game as well. So he's consistently getting pucks towards the net. And on a week, like I said, with 4 light nights, he's a top streaming option on the blue line, and I don't mind squeezing him in. A couple other names to get to here. Ty Cartier is 6% rostered. He's a strong option in banger leagues because he's averaging 3.0 hits per game while adding 8 points, 3 goals, 5 assists in 12 games since joining the Rangers off of waivers. Deeper, scraping the bottom of the barrel now, Taylor Raddysh was recently bumped up into the second line with Vincent Trocheck and Will Cuylle and played 17:51 in the Rangers' most recent game. If that usage holds, he could emerge as an okay option this week, but he's more of a deeper league desperation play than anything. Connor Sheary at 0% has picked up 3 points in his last 7 games, including 2 goals, but offers literally no floor. I would rather stream 2 games of the Buffalo Sabres and then add somebody on Sunday than probably stream Sheary. But he's out there with all these injuries and trades and everything. You're seeing guys like Gavrikov and Raddysh and Sheary play some additional power play time that we aren't used to them, seeing. So they all are more viable streamers now than they would have been months ago. So, with the advantage you get by streaming the Rangers, you can dip that low. I like adding Raddysh in really deep leagues. It's fine. I don't mind Cartier in banger formats this week at all. I think he's a really sneaky stream. Let's talk about the Buffalo Sabres now, which, as I mentioned, Boston on Wednesday in a 2-game slate, Detroit on Friday in a 2-game slate. not the best matchups, right? Like Jeremy Swayman, we just saw what he did to the Red Wings over the weekend. He's been playing incredible. John Gibson's been awesome all season. So not the best matchups overall, but like I said, I'd rather stream 2 games of the Sabres than 4 games of Connor Sheary, and then you can add anybody that plays on Sunday. There's 12 teams to choose from. It gives you a lot of roster flexibility. And even the Rangers in their game on Sunday against the Panthers have been a little bit more leaky as of late, but there's better matchups available. So the Sabres certainly provide you with a little more roster flexibility. They got a lot of capable streaming options, to be honest with you. We'll start with Josh Doan, who's 33% rostered. He continues to impress. He's posted 7 goals with 11 points in his last 17 games. But the most appealing part of his profile is the combination of shot volume, which is 2.3 shots on goal and 4.2 shot attempts per game, and power play production. He's got 5 power play points during that time. He's been a staple in that top power play unit this year. And I just think the fact that he offers pretty stable floor, pretty stable volume, and the fact that he has the potential to chip in power play points, which your league might count as a category, makes him one of the most appealing streamers of the week. Like outside of Lafrenière, he's the only one that's on the top power play unit. So I guess Jason Zucker is as well. We'll get to him in a second. But Josh Doan would be like my second favorite overall stream if you don't factor in the games. I would say probably I would go Lafrenière, who's 49% available, so chances are you're not going to be able to stream him. But Lafrenière, then Perreault, then Doan, then probably Cuylle. Those 2 are probably interchangeable for the most part. Next is Jason Zucker, who I just mentioned. He's been a great stream all season, though his ice time has dipped slightly as of late, averaged under 14 minutes per game over his last 4 games. That's a bit concerning, but the production has still been there. He enters the week with 8 points, 5 goals, 3 assists in his last 11 games in March. So he has shown the ability to produce offense in limited minutes basically all season. Like, yeah, under 14 minutes a night isn't ideal, but he's been around 14, 15 all season. So it shouldn't be a huge hindrance on him. And like I said, he's been very, very capable. Zucker, McLeod, and Jack Quinn have been a fantastic line together. I think I prefer Quinn over Zucker. Just, obviously Zucker being on PP1 is helpful, but Quinn offers a little bit more stability. Since returning from the Olympic break, he's recorded 5 goals, 3 assists for 8 points in 14 games. But his shot volume is what stands out the most. He's averaging 4.9 shot attempts per game during that stretch. And if you zoom out further, I talked about this a couple weeks ago, he has 10 goals and 23 points in his last 29 games. That's a 28-goal, 65-point pace and makes him a very viable streaming option. So if you've got a guy that's like basically scoring at a 30-goal pace, a 65-point pace, and that kind of shot volume, he's a very, very interesting streamer this week. Probably among my favorites. I would prefer Quinn over Zucker at this point. Next is Zach Benson. He doesn't offer the same floor as Doan or Quinn. The shot volume is much lower, but he has been productive recently with 6 points in his last 5 games. The problem is that he's bounced from the top line to the fourth line, to the top line to the fourth line, and he's very deployment dependent. So if in Tuesday's morning skate, he's back in the top line with Thompson and Tuck, a trio that has produced extremely strong metrics together this year, then I think he's a good streaming option. If he's on the fourth line with Sam Carrick and Beck Mallenstein, probably not streaming him, although Carrick's been red hot. But I would prefer, obviously, Quinn, Doan, Benson if you need to dip down, and he's playing with Tage Thompson. So that is the extent of the best streaming candidates for the week. I wanted to shed some light now on the teams that are at the opposite end of the spectrum that have no light nights this week and basically are going to be sitting on your bench, right? Like, unless they're the top players on your team, there's going to be a full bench on Tuesday and Thursday and Saturday. So you're going to be benching them anyway. You might as well make these tough decisions, cut them, and stream that spot on Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I mean, because if you could stream 3 guys this week and have a really have a huge advantage on those late nights instead of having guys just sit on your bench. So I'm going to roll through every team that has no late night games this week, talk about who I would be comfortable dropping from that team, but then also talk about next week and which teams, maybe it's worth holding them for this week because next week it gets better. Or there's a couple teams where the schedule is bad this week and it's even worse next week, and you might as well just drop them now and not even worry about it. So we're going to go in order here, in alphabetical order if we could. So we are going to start with the Anaheim Ducks, who have no light nights this week. I would be dropping Mason McTavish for sure. He's 45% rostered. He has been very, very bad as of late. Getting healthy scratched, I would not hesitate to cut Mason McTavish. Beckett Seneca is a little bit more tricky because, yes, this week he might not get in your lineup at all. The good news for the Ducks is the matchups are nice. Vancouver, Calgary, and Edmonton. So, like, they should score, and you might want to consider them instead of just benching them. And then when you look ahead to next week, they've got a really nice schedule. They have the, the sixth best opponent rating, but they've got 3 light nights. So I don't want to drop a ton of Ducks because you're going to want them next week. But like McTavish is basically irrelevant right now. So I'll probably hold on to Seneca because he still might crack your lineup this week. I'm obviously keeping their top guys like Gauthier and Carlson and all that. We're not even really that worried about it. Chris Kreider, that's another one you could probably drop if you streamed him last week, like we suggested. The Calgary Flames, no late nights this week. I would drop literally every Calgary Flame. There's no reason to have them on your roster. Not going to talk about them too much. The Colorado Avalanche, their entire roster is either guys that are high owned and they're their best players, or they're like not owned and they suck. So you're not going to drop their studs. And they also have a great schedule next week. So you're not like dropping Nichushkin or anything like that. Like you're keep the Avs on your team, obviously. The Oilers are interesting. Matt Savoy, obviously, very interesting pickup. A guy we talked about a lot, a guy that we liked a lot. Bumped off the top line with Connor McDavid. I'd be fine dropping him this week. He's not going to make it in your lineup. Even if he's with McDavid, he's probably not cracking your lineup with no light nights this week. The schedule too, Utah and Vegas, not great. Anaheim is a decent matchup. But yeah, Savoy is one that I'm dropping for sure. Nugent Hopkins, I think, is on the edge, right? Like, I think like I would, he's probably going to have a hard time cracking your lineup this week. And then next week, they've got no light nights again. So I would not hesitate to drop Ryan Nugent Hopkins at this point. If you need to make that, I guess I should have clarified at the start. Like, I'm not dropping these guys just to drop them, of course. But if you want to stream and you're not sure who to drop, these are your candidates. Let's talk about the LA Kings now. I would pretty much drop anyone on the roster not named Artemi Panarin or Adrian Kempe. The good thing for them, they do play the Flames and the Canucks. So like those guys should still be productive. If you take a look to next week, though, where are they? In the middle of the pack. Not really a great schedule next week either. So those top end guys, sure, they're fine. But I'm not hesitating to drop the rest of them. Like Kopitar has been red hot. You can probably keep him around if you need a center, but like he's probably sitting on your bench. Minnesota Wild, same thing. Dropping pretty much anyone not named Kaprizov, Quinn Hughes, or Matt Boldy because no light nights this week. The Zuccarellos and company probably not going to get into your lineup. And then you look ahead to next week. They don't even play the first 3 days of the week. I'm fine dropping basically any of their peripheral guys not named Kaprizov, Hughes, or Boldy. The Islanders, same thing. Dropping basically anybody not named Schaefer, Horvat, or Barzell. The matchups this week are okay, but no light nights. Take a look ahead to next week. Their matchups, they do have 4 games next week, 2 light nights. The matchups are just kind of okay though. So I wouldn't hesitate if you're really like kind of on the brink. Like obviously Anders Lee's played well. I would want to try to keep him around for next week, but I wouldn't hesitate to drop him. If it came to it, you could probably scoop him up for next week. The Pittsburgh Penguins. We've been talking a lot about guys like Chinakhov and Mantha and those guys being great pickups. Obviously, Malkin's playing well, and Crosby, Raquel, Rust have all been solid. I'm trying to hold on to the Penguins if at all possible because it gets really good for them next week. They're the only team in the NHL with 5 games next week. Only 2 on light nights, but 5 games could provide you a nice edge. Good matchups across the board, too, for the most part. So trying to keep the Penguins around if at all possible. Next is the San Jose Sharks. Honestly, if your name's not Macklin Celebrini, you're probably gone. Not the best matchups. And, next week it does get better. So the Toffoli, he's hurt, but like Eklund, those type of guys are okay next week, but I'm not too concerned about dropping them right now. So if you're not Macklin, you're gone. Seattle, they have no light night games this week or next week. I would drop every single Seattle Kraken. They have no business. They're not going to crack your lineup, most likely. St. Louis, this week sucks, obviously. The matchups aren't terrible, though, especially the San Jose and Toronto matchup. So, like, guys like Snuggerud and Thomas and Kyrou Holloway, they might be in your lineup this week in those matchups. So, worth holding on to this week. And the next week, it's as good as it gets, man. 4 light nights. Matchups are pretty good, especially the Sharks and the Ducks. The other 2 are just kind of so-so. But you're going to want to target the Blues next week, so don't drop them this week. Keep them on your roster. Utah, no light nights this week, no light nights next week. So all their peripheral guys are gone. Obviously, you're still holding on to Schmaltz and Gunther, Sergachev. I think Peterka is where you start to draw the line. If he's your worst player, your team's probably pretty good. You don't need to worry about it. But if Like, I'm not dropping Peterka for the sake of dropping Peterka. There's a lot of other guys I've talked about here. But if he's your worst player, your team's loaded and move on. The Canucks, they have no light nights this week. Absolutely horrible nights, matchups next week. They've got 4 games. The matchups are brutal. Vegas, Colorado, Minnesota, Utah. So yeah, I'm dropping every single Vancouver Canuck. I don't need Elias Pettersson anymore. I don't need, Phil Perreault on the blue line. If you're really desperate for blue line help, you might not have a better option than him. But like, I would rather have Vladislav Gavrikov right now, I think. So yeah, like, obviously those banger leagues where shot blocks and all that stuff count, like Hronek's got a little more volume or value. So like, I might not drop him. But like everybody else, like Rossi and them have started to come on here, but they're not going to provide much for you here in the pivotal weeks of the season with no light nights this week, brutal matchups next week. No, thank you. Vegas Golden Knights, you're obviously holding on to their studs, but then you got guys like Ivan Barbashev who's hovering around 30% roster that I would be like, okay, yeah, see you later. One light night game. The matchups are good next week, but just 3 games, 1 light night. Barbashev is just not worth holding on to if it means risking getting eliminated this week. The Washington Capitals, really, really tough schedule this week. Really tough schedule next week. I'm basically dropping anybody not named Ovechkin, Wilson, or Chychrun. And just, obviously, again, not just dropping them for the sake of dropping them, but to pick up the right guys. I wouldn't hesitate to drop the Stromes and the McMichaels and the Leonards and those type of players. Protas would be on the fringe. He's playing pretty well right now. But again, this is very league dependent. I'm trying to cover a lot of different formats at once, but the schedule's not good. But boy, let's close the show out with as bad as it gets. Winnipeg Jets. Obviously, you're not dropping the guys like Scheifele, Connor, Morrissey. Velarde would be teetering. But you may be in for a bumpy ride because no one has a worse fantasy schedule over the next 2 weeks than the Winnipeg Jets. 6 games, no light nights. They have Vegas, Colorado twice, a little bit of a reprieve against the Blackhawks, and then they close out against Dallas and Columbus, who's been one of the better defensive teams in the league as of late. So the matchups are horrific. So if you're like a team that's built around like a Scheifele Connor stack, it could be bumpy for you here these next couple of weeks. The matchups are absolutely dreadful. Who do they got next week? Chicago, Dallas, Columbus. Yeah, like it's as bad as it gets. So that's going to do it for this edition of the DFO Fantasy Show. Thank you so much for tuning in. Smash the like button, hit the subscribe button if you're watching on YouTube. And yeah, hopefully we can pick up the right guys, move on to next week, either punch your ticket to the semifinals or the championship game. Best of luck this week. We'll see you back here in a couple days. Thanks for watching this video. If you want more great fantasy hockey and betting content from myself, Carter Hutton, Matthew Barnaby, and the rest of the DFO analysts, make sure you subscribe to the DFO Fantasy and Betting YouTube channel today and never miss a minute.